You're watching the Black Wonder Channel, where we discuss current events, geopolitics, and much more.
Tune in every year this time just to confirm what you probably already know. Yes, notice on the continuation of the national emergency with respect to certain terrorist attacks. Consistent with Section 202 of the National Emergencies Act, I am continuing for 1 year the national emergency previously declared on September 14th, 2001 with respect to the terrorist attacks of September 11th and the continuing and immediate threat of further attacks on the United States. Because the terrorist threat continues, the national emergency declared on September 14th, 2001, and the powers and authorities adopted to deal with that emergency must continue in effect beyond September 14th, 2023. I hope people have heard me say it, James. I hope they heard me say 1,000 times. 9/11 is and is still the blank check for worldwide tyranny. As the Honorable Dr. Ron Paul asked the question, why are we in Niger? Yes, this is about 9/11. The July military coup in the West African country of Niger has once again brought attention to the fact that the U.S. government runs a global military empire that serves Washington's special interests and not national interests. Before the coup actually made news headlines, most Americans, including many serving in that geriatric ward of Zionist agents and pedos we call Congress, they had no idea the U.S. government maintains more than 1,000 troops stationed on several U.S. bases in Niger. But it gets even worse than that. A recent report in The Intercept suggests the Pentagon repeatedly misled Congress about the extent and the cost of the presence. According to The Intercept, in testimony before the House and Senate Armed Services Committee in March, the chief of U.S. Africa Command, AFRICOM, described Air Base 201 in Niger as minimal and low cost. That minimal and low cost is $250 million since 2016. So when, what date and what session of Congress did they declare war on Niger? Of course they didn't. They haven't in a long time. As Responsible Statecraft points out, U.S. troops have been training the military in Niger since 2013, and the U.S. government has constructed a number of military bases to fight terrorism in the country and the region. Does that mean that the Pentagon is operating in Niger under the 2001 authorization of use of military force meant to track down those 9/11 perps? Obviously is, James. And ironically, or maybe not, one of the coup leaders in Niger had been trained by the Pentagon at Fort Benning, Georgia, the notorious School of the Americas. Susan Sarandon narrated an Oscar-nominated documentary short in '94, School of the Americas, Assassins. He was trained there, and he was trained at the National Defense University in Washington, D.C. So, as Ron Paul asked, what's the U.S. government training foreign military officers to do? Overthrow their own governments? I assume that is a rhetorical question. So, at this point, you might be wondering, what's Brandon doing all about this? He has apparently given $6 billion to that CIA stronghold known as Iran. Biden's despicable deal allowing Iran access to $6 billion makes the news on 9/11. In another example of Biden doubling down on the worst aspects of Obama, Antony Blinken, Secretary of State, told Congress, again, the balance of power, told Congress on Monday about his approval to transfer $6 billion in funds to Iran in exchange for 5 Americans being held in the Islamic Republic. To add insult to injury, the administration will also be releasing 5 Iranian citizens from U.S. prisons as part of the exchange. So the deal is, Iran gets $6 billion in cash and 5 citizens, and the U.S. gets 5 citizens. I don't even think they play basketball or anything. Meanwhile, Grandpa did make another funny. He wrongly claims to have visited New York City a day after 9/11. Biden, for better or worse, of course, being hilarity of levels we haven't enjoyed since the Bush years. He claims to have been at Ground Zero the day after 9/11. It was a week plus after 9/11. But, of course, Obama's Annenberg factcheck.org regime also have to point out that Orange Man lies, too. He's stretched the truth as well. That's at the bottom of the fact check. That is a kind of strange 9/11 plus 22, James.
Well, if people want to follow up on that Niger story, I will point them to The Gray Zone, which had a piece up late last month. Shocked by Niger coup, Victoria Nuland appeared desperate during Africa tour, in which it seems this might be an actual case of actual blowback, in which, hey, we trained these people and now they're turning against us. Who could have ever predicted that. Well, apparently not Newland.